Hello, good people. Thank you for supporting my channel. Please like, subscribe, and turn on the post notification bell for future content. Now, I'm going to get into a few topics today, but I want to talk about the ever pressing issue of debt. Since so many people have debt, I want to dive into that topic. What does debt mean to you? How much do you consume? Do you save? How much debt do you actually have? Now, what debt means to me is money that is borrowed today that must be paid in the future. Now, there's a big difference between good debt and bad debt. Most Americans have bad debt. Most rich people have good debt. I'll explain the difference between the two shortly, but these are 5 habits that wealthy self made millionaires have incorporated into their financial life that you can do too. And they do this on a regular basis, unassuming. You don't know. Most rich people don't walk around with 50 chains on their neck and money falling out their pocket or throwing money up on, on social media. Most people are very subtle with their habits and how they consume things. It could be the richest person in the world. They look so regular because they can care less about consumption. They're probably putting that money back into their business. And that constitutes good debt. Now, let me explain these 5 habits that they do. First of all, they avoid debt, they avoid bad debt. Most rich people, like I said, have good debt. They only acquire debt when they're trying to acquire a business for investments, income property, commercial real estate, things like that. They take on that type of debt. That type of debt is not bad debt because it generates income. You own the assets outright or eventually, and you earn income on it. So that constitutes good debt. Whereas the average American, we have 80% of Americans in debt, and it's typically bad debt. Credit cards, auto loans, things that don't generate money, things that actually depreciate in value. Now, depreciation is a whole nother topic, but depreciation to a person with bad debt is a bad thing. But when you step into the territory of owning a business or you step into the territory of actually being rich or wealthy, it takes on a whole different meaning. It takes on a whole different meaning. So they have these bullet points and they follow them religiously. That's how they're able to obtain and keep their wealth. They buy cars. They buy cars and plan to keep them long term. Who knew? Now, the average poor person or middle class person, they're upgrading cars every 3, 5, 6, 7 years. A rich person, not all rich people, don't get me wrong, but a lot of rich people will hold on to their cars until the wheels fall off. They don't see the need to drop 50, 60, 80, $100,000 into a car that they probably drive less of the time because being an entrepreneur is not easy. You usually are in a computer or have your head down in the books trying to figure out your next move. You're not actually physically moving the car. And for those who work a 9 to 5 job, they'll take on a $50,000, $60,000 loan for a car, but they have to leave it parked at their job 9, 10, 12 hours a day to produce hourly wages so that they can afford the car. So it's like a double-edged sword. You got the car because you wanted the car. Okay, fine. But you can rarely drive it because you have to spend so much time working to pay for that car. So, it's basically useless. Imagine if you saved that money and invested it. Because that's what they do. That's another thing they do. They invest. They don't let the money just sit around or it's not under their mattress or, they're not hoarding it in some basement or some vault. No, they have it invested, generating more income. Income while they're asleep. You hear me? They have emergency funds. Now, the recommendation for emergency funds is usually 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 months of whatever you pay out a month in all of your bills in total. Times that times six, and you have your emergency funds. They do this. In some cases, they'll have 12 months. That means if anything happens in a 12-month period, they have all of their expenses covered for 6 to 12 months. They have 6 to 12 months to go find a job, 6 to 12 months to restart their business, 6 to 12 months to restructure their business, whatever they need to do. They have 6 to 12 months of leisure time. Now, that gets tricky because there's nothing coming in on the back end, but at least they're covered for 6 to 12 months. Most people in America don't have an emergency fund to cover $1,000 expense if it pops up in their face. They'll get out the credit cards, they'll get out everything. They'll take out loans, personal loans, if they can do that. Because not every American can qualify for a loan. There's a credit scoring system. And if you don't meet the qualifications, you won't get the loan. We all know that, right? They take advantage of everything their employers have to offer, everything their businesses have to offer, or even debt. Debt actually comes with perks when you're on the other side of the game. It's not the harsh realities that we grew up with seeing our parents struggle with debt. No, it's actually a beautiful side of debt if you know how to manage all of this stuff. You have a person that the average American has 5 credit cards in their wallet at any given time. Well, there are people who are so responsible with their credit cards, right? They can have all 5 of those credit cards, have a monthly bill, pay the monthly bill in full immediately every month, pay 0 in interest. Probably had the credit cards for over 5 years. Never paid a cent, a penny in interest. All they pay is their principal every month. That's the game of credit cards. You collect points, and you'll literally be out here on airplanes and hotel rooms, buying meals, taking your family out on a Sunday dinner, all on credit card points. The credit card company is actually paying you to hold their credit card. Now, they don't want millions of customers like that. The way they make their money is through interest. So they need people to not pay the full balance every month. That's their game. But you can beat their game by paying the balance off immediately every month. 0 interest. Have the credit cards for 20 years and pay 0 interest. But you get all the perks and the points and everything that comes with holding that credit card. And like I said, literally, you'll be out here enjoying a Sunday dinner, treating all 4 of your family members, all 3 of the kids, the wife, the husband, everybody eating on points. You have not paid a penny because you were responsible, right? Then that lends to how much do you consume? Because as of 2022, customer debt is at 16.5 trillion, with the average debt among consumers at 96K, $96,000. Now that could encompass car loans, credit card loans. It's all combined. Now that's minus if you have a mortgage, minus if you have student debt. But that's usually the average. That's just what you consume, things you buy. Average 96K. Now, I'm going to do a breakdown of the income groups because here in America, everything is broken off in classes. We have socioeconomic classes. This determines where your kids go to school, the standard of grocery stores that you go into, the standard of your parks, and how well manicured your neighborhoods are, and how safe or assumably safe your neighborhoods are based on your income groups. So you have the first income group is the lower middle class. Now they can make anywhere from 32K to 52K a year. Now see, take these numbers with a grain of salt because it can get tricky. This all depends on the size of your household. If you have a single person, that 32 to 53,000 can go a little bit further. Whereas if you have one, two, three kids, that money becomes less. And then that's when you slip into the lower class because your income is being used to support four members instead of one. Then you have the middle class. Most people are in the middle class. Those are most of our parents. In the middle class, the middle class is usually or a majority of the people who own small businesses. Sarah, who own a bakery up the street in the local community. People in the community before they go to work can stop by Sarah's donut shop and grab a cup of coffee and a donut before they head out. But Sarah also employs three people that come to work every single day that she has on payroll. She's employing three people out of the community plus herself, right? So most of small businesses, which make up about 99% of American businesses, are small businesses. Middle class people who put their hard-earned money, take out a business loan, do whatever they need to do to source for equipment, source for products. Those are generally the bulk of the middle class. And they are 53K to 106K a year. Now, like I said, it depends on their family size too and how much they consume and other habits and things that lends to that. But if it's just one person, that could go a long way. And then you have the upper middle class. That's at 106K to 373K. And then you have the upper class. Most people think you need $1 million minus liabilities to be in the upper class. The threshold to get into the upper class is, I believe, at 450K. If you have a couple, that's what, 225 a piece? And there you go. You're in the upper middle class. But that's anywhere from 373K to 450K and up. Then you're pretty much riding up there with the top 2%. Not necessarily the top 1% because they have an average of $10 million in their savings account. And that's liquid. So that lends to how much do you save? Can you afford to retire? Now, retiring is tricky because that's assuming you'll need $80,000 per year to cover your basic living expenses for 25 years. Now, in order to do that, to get paid out $80,000 annually in retirement for 25 years, you need a minimum of $2 million to retire at the age of 65. And most Americans, most people don't have $2 million sitting in their retirement account or sitting in any given account or in their portfolio or even owning real estate to make up that $2 million. A lot do, but a majority do not. So that lends to a retirement problem. How are these people when they hit 65 years old, how are they going to pay for that? Those are living expenses. Those aren't things that you can avoid or say, nah, I could do away with that. No, we're talking living expenses. Your home, your food, everything. So that $2 million is very imperative. It sounds like a big number, but if you're doing that over the course of your working career or owning a business, then it's obtainable. And then most people, they don't have, like I said, just $2 million and it's just sitting at their house or sitting under their mattress or in a bunch of briefcases and stuff, hiding in secret compartments in the walls in their homes. It don't work like that. They'll take that $2 million and put it in an investment vehicle. I've named a million investment vehicles prior, so I'm not going to get back into that. But historically, the S&P 500 stock market they have an average annualized return that has been 9.2% for a while now. So that means investing $1 million in the stock market will get you equivalent to about $96,000 a year in dividends. That's every year. Rain, sleet, or snow. Sit on your tail, scratch your tail, dig in your nose, do whatever you want to do. Whatever you decide to do or not to do, that $96,000 is going to materialize into your bank account every year. Now, the cool part about that is you keep your million. Your million is there until you decide to take it out. But since you're lending whatever company you've invested in, you've lent them that $1,000,000, they're paying you the $96,000 because you lent them the money. They're giving you that in interest. All of the extra profits that they generated over the quarter, they didn't take that and say, okay, you good people, y'all gave us your hard earned money invested in our company. We're going to then reward you, return the favor, and give you quarterly payouts every quarter to the tune of whatever the figures are, but it'll be equivalent to $96,000 a year. And most people can live off of that, right? But most people aren't aiming to save that million or 2 million. But that 96K comes for the rest of your life until you decide to pull that $1 million out. Now, the 1 million can increase itself if the shares itself go up. Then you have more than $1 million in your investment portfolio. But those gains on that $1 million, whatever it may be, those gains are not realized until you actually take that money, that $1 million out. Then you gained. And then you don't lose its unrealized losses until if you lose and then your portfolio drop less than $1 million. Now in that special case, you lost, but you don't actually lose until you pull your money out of that investment vehicle. Then the losses are realized. They're real losses at that point. But as long as you keep your money in there, and whether the market goes up or down, you good. Right? As long as that company is profitable and able to weather the storm and keep their profits up, you'll continue to get those dividend checks. And the minute you evaluate the company and realize something's wrong, then you take and the company's about to go under or go bankrupt or whatever the case may be. Those are serious issues, right? Then of course you take your $1 million out. You don't let it drop to 800,000 or 500,000 and then you take it out. Most people who are paying attention, they take it out as at the top or as close to the top as possible before it drops. Because some people, they'll have $1 million sitting in their account. The stock market dropped. Now their portfolio is only worth 400,000, 500,000. The market dropped 50%. Now they're like, oh my God, I only have $500,000 left. But if you leave it in there and let the market recorrect itself and go back up, then chances are you'll hit those points again where you'll be back up to 1 million, maybe even more. So doing that, and you could take that 96K and put it into a high yield retirement or high yield savings account, and then generate some more income off of that. Because you're not gonna, physically take the 96K in your hand. You're gonna sit it somewhere so that you can, budget your money for the entire year. That 96,000 has to support you for the whole entire year. But if you have a ton of debt, how much debt do you have? You have a ton of debt, then that lessens. That's why most people who retire, they try to have their homes paid off because mortgage is one of the biggest debts. They try to have their home and cars and things like that paid off so that that money can stay in-house. Because most Americans, 62% of Americans are struggling, affording to pay at least one monthly bill. That means 62% of American households every single month come to the table and they don't have enough money to pay at least one bill. They spend more than what they make. That's the relationship between debt. Your relationship with debt and consumption, is very important. And people, where a lot of us are impulsive shoppers, we'll get out there and we'll buy things, but you have to reel all of that in. You're spending more than you make in your income. That and without a plan, That equals a disaster. The debt will accumulate more debt through interest. So it's a never ending cycle. It's a debt loop, a debt trap. And people say, oh, I want a car loan. I want another car. Well, experts say that car payments is too high if it is more than 30% of your total income. Most average car notes, 700 to 1,000 US dollars. That's a lot. That's a lot to take in. And that minuses gas, power charging if you have an electric vehicle, the maintenance, all of that stuff. Fuel, insurance. So, with that said, make sure your car payment does not exceed 15 to 20% of your total income. I mean, and most people blow right through that. They blow right through that. They much rather have it and appear as if they have more than to actually manage their finances. Say, I'll hold on to my car that I had prior to this. I'll save that $700 to $1,000, and yeah, or maybe I'll take that $700 to $1,000 and invest it in a retirement index fund, where you could get up to that $1 million and or somewhere near it in the future and generate what 30,000 or whatever you gonna generate off of what however much you save in that account. Now I always use the Rockefellers because it blew me out the water when I realized that they basically screwed away generational wealth. In 2 generations is gone. So teaching the next generation is important. You know, teach them not to make the same financial mistakes that you made. Teach them how debt can be a good thing. It don't necessarily have to be the bad thing. You don't have to watch even if you watched your parents struggle with debt, it doesn't have to be that way for you. Build a sizable a savings account. Work towards a sizable savings account or an investment account. It's difficult, but it also is very important so that you stay out of debt. Because debt is going to eat away at your future assets. It will. And with inflation going up, most of us don't stand a chance. Pay off credit card transitions immediately. You have to. If you leaving those transactions sitting on your account, it's going to generate interest. And now you're just giving the credit card companies the money, whereas you could have kept it. Buy a cheaper used car. The rich do it, but for some reason the poor struggle to do it. It amazes me. Rent you a place. Some people, buying is not for everybody. Or if you do buy, rent it out as income property. Buy only what you need. Your relationship with consumption, buy only what you need. The next generation is dependent on it. What are you teaching your kids about investing, saving, debt, all of that stuff? I say it a lot, but if we fail this generation, it's on us. We're their parents. The average credit score for Americans is 698, right? Teach your babies the credit scoring system. Even though some of us see it as outdated system or whatever your views is on it, but right now it's very imperative. It's very necessary. Teach them the difference between good and bad debt. Now, the credit score ranges for you young folks out there who gonna learn a hard lesson about credit walking into the world because maybe your parents didn't know, or maybe they didn't care, or maybe they weren't around. Very poor credit ranges between 300 and 499. Poor credit is 500 to 600. Fair credit 601 to 660. Good credit 661 to 780. Excellent credit, meaning you pay your bills on time. It kind of walks into that territory of what I said, paying off your credit card transactions immediately every month. generate zero interest. That's how you get to excellent credit, which ranges from 781 points to 850. You keep that up, even if you only charge $100. Pay the full $100 off every year. Don't pay. I mean, every month. Don't pay the minimum balance. You're gonna generate interest if you pay the minimum balance. Good debt versus bad debt. A wealthy person will take out a loan to buy investment property that produces consistent income, and the assets go up in price over time, and they own those assets. And they're able to pass those assets down to the next generation, and the next generation then takes those same assets and keeps generating passive income on it. And all the while still owning it. It all ends back to that $1 million scenario I gave. When you put your $1 million on the stock market, you still own it. You sell your real estate property and it's worth $1 million. You're gonna get the $1 million off of it, right? Versus the bad debt, credit cards, student loans, auto loans, payday loans, home equity lines of credit, and the worst of all, loans from family and friends. Stay away from those. Most people don't get in bed with their family anyway, because if you do, if you are responsible and you've saved and you've taught your kids how to save and you've done all of the right things, right? And your family see you, okay, maybe you got it, and they come to you. When you decide to give it to them, understand it's no longer a loan. You just gave that money away. You're not going to get it back for the most part. Most people learn that the hard way, but most people who have done it realize I'm not getting that back. So the next generation depends on all of these things. How are you going to let your kids walk into the future? Are you going to let them get caught and slapped in the face with debt? That's very unfortunate. Teach them. Trust me, they'll appreciate you in the future. I know I did.